This is a document that is federally required to be updated every 5 years. Our most recent update was in 2017. So to remain in compliance, we do need to have that done by the end of the year. So we are shooting for a mid-September date with that. The freight plan encompasses about 10 requirements that have to be in there. Some of those are consideration of significant congestion and delays caused by freight movements and any strategies to mitigate that congestion and delay. A list of priority projects and describes how these funds are able to be carried out, and several other requirements that are in that freight plan. We are also currently conducting a truck parking action plan. Many of you all might have participated in the workshop on Monday. With kind of gave a 2-hour overview of our truck parking plan process. We'll have a much more in-depth look at it next week or next Wednesday. I encourage everybody to attend on the 27th. That'll be a 3-hour session. It'll be led much more in depth on truck parking. But the cabinet should have our truck parking action plan done by towards the tail end of the year. We're shooting for maybe late fall or early winter to be able to have that wrapped up and turned around. And at that time, we will begin work on our rail plan. Our rail plan is another document that is required by FHWA. Our last rail plan was completed in 2015. So we are due for an update on that one as well. Kentucky doesn't have any passenger rail, so that's one of the big requirements that that a lot of other states put in their rail plan, but Kentucky does not have to. With no passenger rail in the state, that's not something that we will be in there. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the ADA stuff that we're doing. The ADA transition plan was approved last summer in June of 2021. As a part of that process, the planning stuff that we did was we LiDAR'd, did a complete state inventory of LiDAR on all our state maintained routes. So now that we have that inventory, we are coming through with Michael Baker, again, as a consultant that both picked up the LiDAR and is tasked with developing some improvements on a lot of these curb ramps, sidewalks if they do not meet the minimum 4-foot width, push buttons. So we have inventory on all these ADA pedestrian features, and through Michael Baker, we have identified several hot spots throughout the state. The first couple of those are in one area is in Frankfort and one area is down in District 10 that we are actually going through and improving ADA pedestrian facilities. So we do have a kind of a Z-various pot in the highway plan with $1 million to be able to take care of future improvements for each of the next 2 fiscal years. And that's a pot that's probably will go up from 1 million once we get this kicked off. It is our goal to bring on a statewide consultant in the future, and our project manager for that will be Keith Lovin, who is our bike ped coordinator. So that's kind of where we stand right now on a couple of initiatives. A couple of our plans are important for the cabinet. That's all I have for now. Hopefully the construction isn't too bad in the background. Hopefully you can hear me. But that's all I have. I'll turn it back over to Jacob, and I thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Mikhail. Anybody got any questions for Mikhail? In the audience, live audience, Zoom audience? Yeah.
Do you want to ask Mikhail if he wants to make any comments about the complete streets work that Grisham Smith is doing?
Yeah, Scott Thompson was saying, and here's the microphones, guys, for live audience. Walk up here to the one of these microphones or whatever, or I'll pass it around if you guys want to stand up. But did you hear his question, Mikhail?
Yeah, the complete streets guidance that we're doing. This is a big initiative both by State Highway Engineer Ballinger and Secretary Gray. Both of them are pretty heavy on the bike ped front. And the last policy that we had was in 2002, which is our bicycle and pedestrian travel policy. So it's been 20 years since we had any type of an updated guidance document for planners across the state to be able to use and Complete Streets. And Complete Streets is a big initiative across the country as well, with dedicated pots of funding, 2.5% of going towards kind of complete street type projects. So it was an initiative that we undertook at the request of executive leadership to update our complete streets policy. And I am pleased to announce that we're kind of wrapping that up. It was our goal to have that done by partnering conference. So it will be a presentation in one of the planning tracks. Keith Lovin, again, is our bike ped coordinator. He's our project manager for that, and I've been working closely with him. In addition to consultant Gresham Smith, Mike Sewell's group, and Katie Rao has done a tremendous job, getting us to this point really in 6 months.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you heard the question there with Scott Thompson. Okay, anybody else? We'll keep rolling. Let me check the chat. Yeah, nobody's chatted. Okay, yeah, thanks, Mikhail. Enjoy the rest of your vacation there, and I'm sure you're going to stick around and watch the rest of the meeting, right? Yeah,
I'll be here. It's actually kind of cloudy and rainy today, so.
Okay, I heard a plane fly over, and I hear some nail guns or something going on there. You're getting some sleep, it sounds like. Okay, yeah, thanks, Mikhail. Next up on the agenda is FHWA John Ballantyne.
Hello,
Any updates that you have, sir?
All right,
yeah, I can see you on the screen. I can hear you good, so go ahead.
Okay, yeah, John Ballantyne, Federal Highway, team leader for planning, environment, system performance, EDC, pavement materials, right of way. We do a lot. I would like to introduce my team. So if Nora, hi, I see you. Your camera's on. Wave, thank you. And more Diop, if you're on, please turn your camera on. There's more. And then Bernadette Dupont, I think she was going over to the cabinet, so she might be in transit right now. So anyway, so I think you all know Bernadette Dupont very well. She's a planner for quite a while, and she does a great job. You tell me. And so we're sorry she can't be here right at this minute, but she'll be joining us later. Nora Akkad is also a community planner, and she has the Louisville MPO, E-Town, and Bowling Green. And she's been with us. How long have you been with us, Nora? About 9 months or so?
Very close to a year.
Oh, a year. Oh, good. Yeah, sorry about that. She also is a planner and also does the NEVI program, and also has really taken the lead on the transportation asset management and the performance measures program. So yay to Nora. More Diop is our environmental protection specialist, and has only been with us for what, 6 months now?
Like 4 months.
4 months. Well, it seems, yeah, we talked to him before, so it seems like, yeah, it's a little longer, but so he kind of took the place of Eric Rothermel, and Moore is very good at environment, and we're so happy to have him. A couple other changes at Federal Highway. Darren Grenfeld left the team. He graduated. Yeah, he retired, and so we're struggling to find somebody to take in the pavement materials, EDC, and he actually was doing the TAP program and some other things towards the end. So we will be hiring some folks. Other changes within the division. Jill Asher left the Federal Highway and went to the Transportation Cabinet. So we hate to see her go. She was a wonderful asset for us, but at least we still get to work with her at the Transportation Center. Eileen Vaughn also left the division, and she's working with the headquarters office of program review. So those are some staff changes. We will be advertising for a pavement materials / engineering coordinator position. In fact, that is open now on USA Jobs. We will be looking for 2 new area engineers. Those are grade 12 area engineers. So those will be coming out fairly soon, we think. We will also be advertising for a civil rights and right-of-way specialist. So we do have a lot of vacancies in the Kentucky Division Office and actually nationwide. We've got quite a few vacancies we're trying to fill. So that's the staff changes that we have. I wanted to show you briefly if I can do this quickly. Come on, computer. Okay, I know many of you are in tune with the grants, the many grant programs that have come out of the new authorization bill. But I did want to just show real quick if I can. Yeah, if I can. Okay, so this is the Federal Highway landing page, and I'll put these links in the chat so you can see them. So can everybody see that page?
See, I don't see it yet.
Okay. Uh-oh. This may go slower than I thought. There should be a nice picture of a parkway scene with grass on it.
Not yet. Are you sharing your screen?
I thought I was.
Let's see, maybe try that again. I don't see it pop up. Okay, there it goes.
Okay, let me try that again.
Starting.
You are sharing. It says,
It started, John.
okay,
There it is.
okay. So that's our landing page. And if you scroll down, and hopefully this will go quick enough that it will work, and you look on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and I'll click that. This page has a lot of good information. So you can take your time and go through all these wonderful fact sheets and guidance, but the fact sheets I'll go to real quick. And this has many of the programs with just fact sheets. So something new is a carbon reduction program. So that's rolling out. Many of these programs you're already aware of course, the planning programs. Safe Streets for All is a competitive grant program, and it closed a few days ago. So I'm sure many got their applications in for that. Some of these programs are apportioned programs where there's just allocations made to the state. Some of them are competitive programs. Some of them have a mixture. So it's a kind of a brave new world as far as funding opportunities through the IIJA. Let me switch over. If I switch, will this take, can you see something called Reconnecting Community Pilot Programs?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes,
Okay,
we
good.
do.
Okay, so this is a new one that's out. It's closes in October. So there are a lot of, again, this is a competitive program, but you can have a lot of people are eligible. So it can be, of course, states, local government, cities, counties, MPOs. Probably the ads can get in on these. So there's a lot of different opportunities there. You can do planning studies. You can do public engagement to finish up and actually put together a more detailed plan to implement projects, or you can actually do other planning activities and even some implementation activities. So there's quite a bit there. So I won't belabor that anymore, but I just wanted to let you know that those are some resources that are out there real quick. Looked at the agenda. You have a good agenda, so I won't any questions, I guess.
Anybody any questions for John? Live audience? No. I don't see anything in the chat box either, John. So
Okay, great.
yeah, thanks for your time. And yeah, that the bill stuff seems like there's a lot of information out there, and it's kind of quick moving. So it's nice to have those updates, the websites and things that people can go to and check out for the latest, greatest info.
I know,
Jacob.
I know many of you are looking at these pretty actively. It's hard to keep up with, so I'm going to load those in these sites into the chat pod. And I try to look at this at least once a week. Of course, we do get notices as well, but yeah, as you said, it's really fast moving. There's a lot of opportunity.
And yeah, go ahead, Mikhail.
Yeah, looks like Beth posted in the chat, but I think he did misspeak, John, because Safe Streets for All closes in mid-September. So it's actually open for another couple months.
Oh, I'm
still.
sorry. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, that's
It's, I
great.
know it's important. We've been working with especially with the ads on trying to get some of those applications in.
Good effort. Great effort, coordination effort you guys are doing. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, good catch. Okay, let's see if nobody else has anything else for John. I apologize. Thanks, John. I apologize for the technical difficulties this morning. We're running a little bit behind, but the podium, for the live speakers, you just have to come down here and sit next to Jacob, and you share the screen next to me. I'll try to turn on the camera here so I can see your smiling faces, though. So let me introduce Justin Harrod and get this back on gallery view. Okay, so Justin, hey Justin. Justin began his career with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet in 2010. Currently works for the Quality Assurance Branch, Division of Highway Design. I see his boss in here somewhere. Yeah, there he is. Let's see, his primary responsibilities center on value engineering program, development of electric vehicle infrastructure deployment plan. In 2009, he graduated from Murray State, and he's a native of Frankfurt. He resides here with his wife, Shelley, and their 3 children. So let's see, Justin, let's share our screen. Let me open your presentation here. EVs, NEVI and EVs. Okay, so now get the royal treatment up here, sitting right next to the moderator. Right. Okay, sure. Let's see, how do I make this or something like that? Oh. Minimize, there we go. Travis Wader's talking, but we'll change that later maybe. All right, let's see. You want to do the full presentation mode? Slideshow from beginning. All right, you guys see that okay? Let's see, hold on just a minute. I basic EV plan, share. Then, yeah, okay.
We see the presenter's notes, unless you don't want us to.
Okay, good call, good call. Stop screen sharing. Oh, come on, Jacob. Let's see, no, Susan. Okay, I know how to do that. Susan and I went in here and did this yesterday. Zoom has a way to do it. It's just a matter of getting it on there. Let's see, are you seeing my notes still?
No, this is perfect.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and then here's the microphone, Justin.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. Electric vehicles, a great topic, first thing in the morning. So, if you're still enjoying your coffee and your breakfast, I believe this is a great topic to go through. My name is Justin Harrod with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, as Jacob alluded to, and this is an initiative that the Cabinet has undertaken in the past half a year, and we have to say that this has been a learning curve has been is probably not even the right words, because as John Valentine alluded to, everything is changing weekly. There's new stuff coming out. And so this is an initiative that is very important for the highest levels of our government to make sure that we reach everybody across the state. So with that, I will state that the presentation will be available for viewing later. And so I'm going to try and get us back on track a little bit on being able to stay on time. So I might blow through some of these slides a little bit quicker than I originally intended to. All right, you can go ahead. Okay, just 1 second.
Technical difficulty, sorry. Let's see. I need to start video.
I think that's just gonna show. I think you should need to share it.
Let's see. Where'd it go? Got any ideas?
Well, as Jacob is working on that, I'll kind of go over like the first few slides. Oh, there we go.
Sweet. Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
There we go. All right, so you can slide it to the next one. So for today's agenda, there'll be a few topics that we go through. And so we'll be going through that quickly. Oh, here, do you want to run that for me? So just real quick, this initiative deals with just battery electric vehicles. This type of initiative, the initial years at the beginning has to be focused on level 3 chargers, which is our direct current fast chargers, or other known as DCFCs. Yeah. And so part of the NEVI requirements is that these stations along these alternative fuel corridors, which we'll get into a few later slides, has to be spaced no more than 50 miles apart. 1 mile from the corridor has to be 4 plugs at 150 kilowatts per plug per station. So a total of 600 kilowatts in total. Has to be open to the general public. So private companies like Tesla are not included as of now. And the cost of these is running roughly about an estimated about $1 million. And we are also looking with talking to the industry, looking at considerable lead times as the supply chain issues and everything kind of affecting the market as of now. And so that's leading us to try and investigate flexibility, which we'll try and go into just a little bit later. And so as mentioned, the NEVI National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program is something that the cabinet has been working on ever since the passing of the IIJA/bill back in November and the guidance that came out at the beginning of February. So you'll see on your screen, there's several things listed here, but some things I wanted to point out is that, we're getting nearly $70 million coming to the state of Kentucky over a 5-year period. When you add in the 20% match, then we're looking at just over 86 billion. And with every federal program, there's an 80-20 split. And so while we're getting 80% of the federal funding, there's also a 20% match. And we are looking into just now, how does that 20% match look? And so that is what the cabinet is looking at now, is looking to do like a mixture of private and state funds. Use of funding has to be on the AFC corridors. And so that's where the initial phases have to start, as I alluded to in the previous slide. So we have to achieve build out, which means we have to get an approval from the USDOT secretary before being able to move off the AFC network. And we are developing a plan and have developed a plan that we're hoping to submit relatively soon, like in the matter of days, hopefully, to help us secure that funding to come to Kentucky. So, our goal and our vision for this plan is to do a reliable, accessible, convenient, and affordable EV charging network that supports transportation choices, energy, diversification, economic development, and environmental sustainability for all Kentuckians. And while this is a federal program that's looking to jumpstart the EV industry and to build out a national network using interstates and parkways, it will be important to us as a cabinet and other leaders of the state to make sure that not only are we meeting the federal highway requirements of being able to do a national network, but also focusing on the intrastate network to make it accessible and open to all of Kentucky's Commonwealth citizens. So as you see, over the past 6 months, we have had numerous meetings, over 100 plus. We've talked to almost nearly 1,000 people. You'll see on your screen kind of a beehive chart of everybody that we've been able to at least talk to on several occasions, including car manufacturers. And so there's been a lot of in stake in this plan development at a very rapid pace. So on your screen, you will see that this is what we are determining to be Kentucky's priority EV corridors. And I just want to state that the governor held a press conference back on the 7th of July where he shared this map. And I just want to read a quote real quick on what he said. This is a good start, but it's only the start. With electric vehicles being the future for Kentucky, leading the way, we are going to continue to build this out and make sure everybody is included. And so I just think that's a very good quote that I wanted to share, because I don't want people to get lost on the initial lines that you see on the map. While we do have to focus on the AFC network, which is about the interstates and the parkways, Kentucky and other leadership recognize the need to make sure to fill in the gaps. And you'll see on your screen that with the initial phase to try and fill in some of the more important gaps, to make sure there's connecting and not a lot of gaps, is to make sure that you'll see in the orange corridors. And so we just want to make sure that we are hitting a lot of the intrastate travel roads in the state. And so this is what was just approved back on the 7th of July. So you'll see I marked out little proposed AFC corridors up there in the legend, because we haven't had time to update this map just yet. But everything you see on your screen has now been approved by the Federal Highways and the Joint Office to be electric vehicle alternative fuel corridors in our state. And so this is what we had asked for, and this was what was approved. So just thanks to everybody that was able to help get this initiative going. So this kind of ties into a little bit of what you saw in the previous map, where Federal Highways is making us concentrate on phase 1 and phase 2, as we call it, which is the interstates and the parkways. And we anticipate that we will be able to build out these corridors, supply chain issue willing, by fiscal year 2024, with a total funding of just over $38 million to get the interstates and parkways built out. And then at that point, we're hoping that guidance will have come out to then allow us to be able to focus on the phase 3, the orange corridors, and then also hopefully having some funding for community chargers. And so DCFC deployment questions, over the last few months, we've been able to look at, what do we need, the demand, where can it go, sustainability, and where is it most needed, priority. And so over the last few months, we've been able to use travel demand modeling. A lot of different factors have gone into sort of an initial process that we will be refining. And so you will see the word draft on these next few maps as we are able to talk to the industry and get feedback from not just the EV industry, but other agencies and stuff, to be able to really hone in on how can we make this the best plan for Kentucky moving forward. And so on your screen, you'll see a density map for 2022. So you'll notice that there's a lot of green. And so that kind of signifies that, as of right now, given the EV demand, there's, half a NEVI station would meet all that demand as of today. And so if you go advance one more slide. So by 2030, you can tell that the demand has increased greater than 2 NEVI stations or 9 ports per 50 miles on large portions of the interstates. And then on other interstates and parkways, we are reaching 1 to 2 NEVI stations per miles. And then there's some parkways that are still at that demand density level of a half NEVI station. And then by 2045, you kind of see that most of the state by now is at the greater than 2 NEVI sites or 9+ ports. And so that's why we want to be able to use this federal program to jumpstart the EV industry and then sort of step out of the way and let them kind of take over and run things after this initial jumpstart. All right, so with suitability, some of the main factors that went into this dealt with predicted long distance trips, and then also power availability and reliability. And when I talk about power availability, I'm talking about 3-phase power. These stations, as I mentioned, require 600 kilowatts. And so, when I said suitability, where might the best place be? Taking into account the travel demand modeling and the power availability. And that's kind of where you see this kind of heat map that kind of makes some areas pop. With priority, this is focused more on what is being required by NEVI requirements. So we're talking about the distance to existing DCFC or NEVI compliant stations that you'll see in yellow on the screen. And then also Justice 40 and rural designations, as Justice 40 is a huge part of this NEVI program. And so this kind of shows the this heat map where the priorities might be. But everything is sort of taken into account. There's other factors that we have. It's just between suitability and priority, the weighted difference comes into play. And so with next steps, now that we're sort of getting to the end of July, submitting our plan to the joint office, and then starting to work on the contracting portion, putting together an RFI by the end of this month, beginning of next month, to get out to the EV industry, to get feedback and comments on what we've kind of done internally thus far, and being able to then get feedback as to what might benefit to add. Is something too cumbersome? That will help us kind of then be able to talk about drafting our RFP that will then go out towards the end of the year or beginning of next year, depending on when we receive funds from Federal Highways once our plan is approved by them, which should be no later than September 30th. But it will be a critical role between private entities. And so, a public-private partnership will be important, because one of the things that most of the states, KYTC included, is that we do not want to operate, maintain, own these at the end of the day. As I mentioned, we want to be able to help jumpstart the program and then slowly fade away in the background as the EV industry kind of really takes over. And you'll notice, like, every week or two, there's a new type of partnership from the private entity coming out, whether it be with, GM and EVgo or some other type of initiatives that are trying to bring EV charging stations across the country. And we suspect that this will be ongoing and uptick more as we move ahead. So where we need your help and input, as I mentioned, Justice 40. One of the main actionable items in our plan is dealing with community engagement efforts, making sure that we reach disadvantaged communities and that we demonstrate at least 40% of benefits either directly or indirectly to those areas with this NEVI formula program funding. And so some of the groups that we're looking to engage, you'll see on your screen, and I will be in contact, several of us will be in contact with the NPOs and ads over the coming months on how to engage this moving forward. And so this is just the Justice 40 map, and you'll see areas highlighted like in purple are the communities that Federal Highways has deemed as disadvantaged communities. So as you'll see that, that kind of overlays a little bit with our AFCs. All right, so how to help you all prepare. Over the last few months, we've been talking about, how can we help you all help us? And so now that we've got the AFCs approved, we're getting ready to submit our plan. we're getting ready to work on contracting. We also want to help you all because we know questions are going to be coming in to you all out in the field. And so we want to make sure that, these are kind of the 5 ways to prepare from education to deployment. And so educate. One of the things that I did early on was just go into a web browser and just Google like USDOT, USDOE. Once the joint office was established, joint office. And if you type in the word electric vehicle after anything, you will get bombarded with a lot of information. And so learning from websites and all those websites and all those places I just mentioned, DOE, DOT, the joint office, they have webinars that they've conducted that they are pretty good about putting up on their website that you can go back and view either past or future ones. And so that reviewing kind of the EV 101 material will help you kind of understand the key concepts and differences. As we know, transportation loves acronyms. And with this program, there's several dozen new acronyms. And so, just making sure to stay up to date on that. Collaborate, talk with neighboring communities, agencies, local electric utilities, anybody that might be interested in community chargers. As we have to focus on NEVI build out of AFC corridors, there is other funding available to you all in the coming months that while we are focused on that, you can focus on community charging if you so wish. And I'll get to more funding in a second. Planning, EV infrastructure planning, considering, single family and multifamily homes, workplace. As I've said before, you all know your area better than we do. So kind of where the destination charging can take place and where people travel to your communities. So being able to plan for that, and then also kind of look at workforce. Chapter 11 in our electric vehicle infrastructure deployment plan. I just want to read a quote from the joint office. The section of this plan should consider the training, experience level, and diversity of workforce that is installing and maintaining EV charging infrastructure. And so the Joint Office and Federal Highways has also put sort of a few requirements on workforce that's currently in the notice proposed rulemaking that's due by August 22nd. And so I would advise, everybody, if you can, to take a look at that and let us know if you would like any comments to coincide with ours as we look to submit comments by that August 22nd timeline. Funding. So as I mentioned, right now, private sources are the main source of funds, and also nonprofits. There's Volkswagen settlement funding that will be coming out later this year. We'll be getting funding for our NEVI program once approved by the end of September. The NEVI competitive grant program is a funding grant that will be coming out later this year. Guidance is supposed to be out in November. And that is a $2.5 billion program that is open to everybody. But as I mentioned, it is competitive. And that's kind of just a few of the funding sources that could be available to you all. And I would say watch for others because there's a lot of money being thrown at electric vehicles right now. And then also support and deploy. Work with businesses, developers, the general public. How can you look at determining administrative changes to help implement EV vehicles in your area? And you'll notice on your screen at the very bottom, KYTC will be providing additional information to help you all with this. We're putting together some one-pagers. We're hoping to have them ready today and just ran out of time as there's a few changes that needed to be done. But that is stuff that is forthcoming, and we will make sure as we meet with you all over the coming months to make sure that y'all have the material that you need and to let us know what additional material you need to help make this successful for your area and for the state overall. So with that, I'll open it for questions and turn it back over to Jake.
Hey, thanks, Justin. I need to use this microphone stand here. That would have been helpful. See, anybody got questions for Justin? See, Bernadette's got her hand up. And they might be able to hear you from the microphone there right next to you. Yeah, you can speak up. You project your voice pretty well, Bernadette.
That was subtle. My question is, when you show the map of Kentucky and you can see southeastern Kentucky has a big hole, there's no alternate fuel corridors in there. Are there plans to extend one of those to that area? I know it's geography, the mountains make it difficult. That's what you're talking about there. When will that?
You're talking about like the orange corridors?
Right.
Yeah. So, while Federal Highways was kind of wanting us to focus on the major transportation routes, interstates, parkways, we quickly noticed that there was a need to make sure to fill certain gaps to make sure that communities weren't missed. So what we initially tried to do, and as I said, the quote from the governor, this is the start. It's by no means a finished map, as this is a 5-year program. And this will be a living document. Each year, joint office will allow us to update. And so initially at the very beginning, we kind of highlighted these orange routes as a way to fill in some of the most severe gaps in the state. And then as we work through achieving build out, and hopefully being able to go off corridor once we get approval from the US DOT secretary, we can then focus on these gaps. But like I said, there's also other funding that's available that could help us hit these simultaneously. The Volkswagen funding, the competitive grant funding. But yes, does that answer your question, Bernadette?
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you. I guess I didn't phrase it very well. I was asking, what I was thinking in my head was, when do you think that'll happen? Because that map is very good. And the other map showed that big hole. Is that, 4 or 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Go one more. Yeah, so this right here is, it's a 5-year program ending in fiscal year 2026. We are hoping to achieve build out of having our interstates and parkways totally built out and hopefully approved by fiscal year 2024. So granted, with the supply chain issues, can't account for, that kind of thing. But we're hoping, our plan is to hopefully have everything that we need to start moving to this phase 3, phase 4 parts of our plan in fiscal year 2024.
Okay, thank you.
So
That was a lot of information to take in. And I have one last question about suitability. What were the factors that went into determining it was a suitable area? Is that percentage of trucks were included there, I assume? What about geography?
Yeah, go back to that slide. So for suitability, there was a lot of different weighting of factors. I kind of just went over the ones that were kind of weighted more heavily, but some of the other ones include miles of corridor coverage, presence of amenities, intersecting road traffic, Justice 40 designation, rural designation. So when you're talking about truck traffic, that's kind of included in the the intersecting road traffic as we kind of looked at each interchange on these AFC corridors.
Thank you very much. And you've been doing a great job in keeping everybody educated. Just wanted to give you kudos for that.
Thanks.
Okay, then Emily can you go over where we can send comments on the plan if we have comments from our communities?
Of course, if you go to the very end of the slide. There we go. So you'll see on your screen, and I apologize, I should have said this as I got to the slide. We have developed a email address, EV plan contact email. So on your screen, you'll see that it's evplan@ky.gov. And if you have questions, comments, you can send it to this. I monitor this. There's several other people that monitor this. And so at some point, give me like a day or two, I will be able to respond back. But yeah, this is the way that if you have comments for your community, Emily, this is where you can send those to, and we will obviously, take them into account. And I think there was one other. I just want to state, we're always open for comments at any time, even with the submittal of our plan. As I said, this is a living document. We'll have to update this annually. And so being able to get feedback from you all will only help make this plan successful for the state overall.
All right, thanks, Justin. I think that's all we had time for. Yeah, your applause. Audience. Okay, let's see. Patty Dunaway is on here. LRSTP's next. So if you guys got any questions for Justin, email him or email me. I'll get him back and forth there as needed. Okay, so let's see. Next on the list, Patty.
Yep, I'm here.
Let me intro you here real quick. We'll try to breeze through this one, get us back on schedule. But
Sure.
long-range plan is definitely not to be taken lightly. But Patty Dunaway is working with Michael Baker International right now. She's got over 30 years experience in civil engineering. And she was state highway engineer here for a while before she went to the consultant world. And she's graduated from UK and she lives in Litchfield with her husband, Jerry, and two daughters, Don and Terry, and amazing grandson, Keller. Okay, so Patty, let's see.
You want me to share my screen, Jacob?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen, Patty, and
Okay.
close out of some of this. Okay.
Let me know if you can see the presentation and then I'll start it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. Quick update. Personally, I have 2 grandchildren now, a little granddaughter, Arlen, so I have to update that bio. All right. Well, thank you again for letting Jacob and I, there's going to be a tag team and this is kind of a practice for us. We got a few other presentations, but appreciate the opportunity to come and just update you all on where we are with the long range statewide transportation plan update. Today, we're going to talk about basically Jacob's going to kick it off, kind of talk about the why, how, and what of the whole process and why we do this update. I'll update you quickly on the schedule, talk about the vision, goals, and objectives, kind of explain a little further what we did with the scenario planning process, and then talk about what came out of that with the plan of action, some strategies, and then some tasks with the implementation plan that you all are going to be seeing. And then the main purpose today is to talk to you all about next steps and ask you all for help for the review of the actual draft document that's going to be coming out on October 3rd. So Jacob, do you want to talk on this slide?
Yeah, so why I do this quick, why we're doing this. Jason Swallace mentioned me in ALA and we read this book called Start With Why. And it talked about, not just telling people what it is, it's a long range plan, but why we do it is because we're caring about people. We're in the business of getting people where they want to go, families and friends, and also the businesses of Kentucky. So why is, we want the greatest transportation system in the world, right, in Kentucky. And then how we do it is the teamwork, it's a huge team. These planning partners in the room today online, we can't do it without you. And the public, we do these surveys and things. So to me, that's how we do it. And we believe in the kind of power, united we stand, divided we fall. And what it is it's a federally required document as well. So it's a long range plan. It's 2022 to 2045. So it's projecting 20 plus years into the future, and we want to get it right. We update about every 7 years, and in a nutshell, that's why, how, and what. So go ahead, Patty.
All right, great. Well, you all had seen this one before in the last update. So just to kind of tell you the whole project schedule, of course, phase 1's completed with looking at the existing plans and studies, reviewing of all modes of transportation. We had various committee meetings, you all being one of those, and getting your input, as well as the executive committee that included like the leadership there at KYTC, and then the multimodal representatives, and then public comment that came from the survey and then through our website. Of course, all that was done. We developed the draft plan. It was submitted to the Division of Planning on June 30th. And now we're into the final phase here, preparing and doing final edits so that it'll be ready for that public review and comment on the actual draft document. So a key component, again, of getting that input was those 8,300 participants that did the survey. Like I said, we were very pleased with that. And then all of the input from all of those sources, basically we took all that. This word cloud just describes the great input that we got and the focus areas that came up out of that. again, from your all's input and your all's help in getting that input from the public. So thank you all again. That was, huge success. A major part of that was you all, and we greatly appreciate it. So all of that input led into the development of the vision for the 2022 through 2045 long-range statewide transportation plan. So as you can see here, that is set for a viable, reliable, and resilient multimodal transportation system to provide access and mobility for all users for the safe movement of people and goods. And of course, that was taken from those national performance goals, also making sure that our vision aligns with what we heard in the input, but it lines up with what the federal highway performance goals are. So we think we have that set very well. Also from that, we developed 5 goals that we want to follow in order to make sure that we are doing our best to provide and meet those performance goals. So you can see those that are listed here, and supporting that, we have the guiding principles. So these guiding principles helped to process that framework in order to deliver on the improvements or the policies or the other things that we determine need to be updated throughout this process. So again, if you look at these words, you can refer back to that word cloud that I just showed, and they are all included here to make sure that we're talking about improving quality of life, providing equity, sustainability, adaptability, providing a seamless network amongst the modes, and always looking for economic vitality in everything that we do. So I think, like I said, it's definitely was headed in a great direction. The next phase that we did, which was new to this process, was the scenario planning. So the purpose of doing that was so that we could look at the uncertainty that, is in the future of what faces transportation needs. We had different scenarios so that we could stress test and try to determine where the risks are in order to be prepared to provide the best outcomes should those things happen. Also, the participants in a workshop that we held in April, they also looked at the different funding possibilities so that we could take what we anticipate will be the funding over these next 20 plus years to look to see where the, accounting for differences in economic growth, vehicle usage, vehicle fuel types, for example, and they had to look and do some trade-offs. And like I said, that was focused on these 4 possible scenarios. If you all remember, I think I mentioned we had started off with 12 straw men. They kind of got narrowed and combined. Thanks for input from KYTC and the modal reps. Some of you all in this meeting are included in that. And so these 4 scenarios, those participants, kind of dove into in order to come up with some themes and strategies that we could focus on in our continued development of the long range plan. The decision lens was the component or the software that was used to do that funding comparison. And like I said, it looked at the programmatic investment areas in order to achieve what we desired for the transportation performance. And then again, they had to look at those trade-offs. So one thing that kind of came out of that was interesting, we saw and heard from the different breakout groups and the participants that, we do see always a need kind of for investment in the system preservation, but we also had to say, okay, how do we address capacity? Always have to focus on improvement to the safety and considering advanced technologies. So one of the things I think when you all review the draft plan, you'll kind of see what strategies and tasks that came out of it that you can see kind of direct us into the future so we can be prepared for these possible futures. So just a summary thus far, as I mentioned, we talked about the review of the existing plans. We talked about the different modes and we did reports for each one of them. So the draft plan will have appendix for each mode and how it went more in depth. And then we have a summary within the actual document itself. as well as that scenario planning analysis I mentioned. And all of those came together through looking through the vision that was set, as well as ensuring that we are constantly aligning with the goals and objectives, following those guiding principles to stay in position where we want to be so that we can develop a plan of action. So, and then the final step would be the implementation plan. So the plan of action ended up with 4 categories that came kind of rising to the top. Those are listed here: funding and revenue, programming and project decision-making, the organizational structure for KYTC, and then the standards and processes. And so, like I said, those plan of action strategies evolved into recommendations on policies, policy changes, investment strategies, possible new programs or change to existing programs, and then organizational changes. From those, it led into the implementation plan. And this step of the plan is something that everybody involved has been very excited about, because it helps us to ensure that the long-range statewide transportation plan for Kentucky stays active and is a living document, so that it can help Kentucky, being led by KYTC, to be prepared for the future and to make improvements that will have the best overall impact for the multimodal transportation system, like I said, from now into the future. So the goal of these implementation tasks that you all will see, like I said, I'm giving you a teaser here so that you all can go into the plan and review those. These tasks also identify people that are responsible for accomplishment of each task and what groups need to work together within the 4 categories, so that we can make those improvements or changes in order to be prepared for those potential scenarios that we discussed, and best set up Kentucky to be successful and prepared for whatever our multimodal transportation system may present to us in the future. So like I said, we're all excited about this. Where we are right now, the Division of Planning is reviewing that. We, like I said, presented that to them at the end of June, and we're anxious to get their comments back by the end of next week so we can kind of make edits. But then we'll be presenting it to the leadership of KYTC to look at, and the subject matter experts, so that we can get their input on those implementation tasks and what they believe will best set up for the future of the transportation system. So we'll get all of that in line during August and September. Then we'll go, resource agency letters will go out by the coming from Mikhail, but through the project website email. And then we'll also be planning setting up the new MetroQuest survey so that we can provide that to you all. We'll have things that you all can send out, kind of like a one-pagers, as well as those of you all who are helping us with the social media boosts and posting it on your all's various social media platforms and sending it out to your membership list and distribution list that you have. So come the end of September and that first week in October, we're going to ask that you please help us to do that once again for that 30-day review period of the draft LRSTP, so that we can get us a good review and comments and questions that we may have for that in order to be finalized and released by December 21st of the end of the year. So Jacob, I hope that was fast enough. Oh, last couple slides. This is the website, just to remind you, get there together, ky.org. Information has been updated as we go through there, but by October, we will have all of the survey will be out there, as well as additional information to help kind of support the document snippets from the draft document itself. And so we just ask that everybody, get involved. There's a place you can sign up if you want more information currently on the website. And we're excited to get to this point. So Jacob, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Yeah, you guys caught back up a few minutes there.
Oh, hey, I'm a fast talker. I can do that anytime.
Let's see, anybody got questions for Patty on the long range plan? Live audience, none. Virtual audience, none. Like I said, you got the contact information here. And we're hoping to get that draft out, in the next couple months. So be on the lookout. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, buddy. Have you?
All right. Thank
stick
you
around.
all. Thank
Stick
you all.
around. Have a good rest of the day if not.
All right. Okay, I'll stick around. Yes.
See it. Okay, let's see. Next speaker is TISMO Program Plan Northern Kentucky ATDM Study. So Steve DeWitt is our newly minted Strategic Planning Branch Manager. Congratulations, Steve. And 2013 graduate Purdue University, initially worked as a consultant. And he has worked at the Transportation Cabinet since 2018. So let me also introduce Mr. Chris Barrow. Chris is a Madison County native that started his career at Georgia DOT scholarship student in the Atlanta Traffic Management Center. During those 3 years at GDOT, he was exposed to various freeway arterial management strategies and the importance of thoughtful maintenance and operations. In 2013, it was time to move his young family, wife Ariel, 3 kids, back home to Kentucky, which was when he joined WSP. Today, he leads Kentucky Transportation Business Line. The Kentucky Transportation Business Line is always looking for opportunities to bring future-ready ideas nationally back home to Kentucky. So that's a good statement. So let's say, Steve, you're probably going to start here. Let me share the screen. Unless Chris wants to. Here we go. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. I was going to have you up here at the podium and all that, but it didn't work out today. Those medical cannabis guys, man, we was all working good yesterday, and then coming this morning is all messed up. So let's see. Share. And let's see, so you're seeing that. Let's see, how do we get out of this? Oh, from beginning. Kapow. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's put this right here for you.
Awesome.
Let's see if I don't worry about the camera, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine. No one needs to see me. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to talk to you about a couple of really, really cool studies that have been going on over the past year and a half, focused on some more innovative ways to incorporate, basically to use our the right of way that we already have, the system that we already have, and getting the most out of that. That starts with the TISMO program plan, and then into the Northern Kentucky Active Traffic Demand Management Study. And so TISMO is an acronym for Transportation Systems Management and Operations. So what we're going to talk about today is, what TISMO is, where it currently sits, and who are the champions, and then what the program plan is, and how we're doing that, and how we're going to use that plan. So, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Chris just for a sec.
So we'll start with just a quick definition of what TISMO is, because a lot of the conversations that we've been having is, okay, it's another acronym, but what does it mean? So it's a broad set of strategies that aims to optimize the safe, efficient, and reliable use of existing and planned transportation infrastructure for all modes. So it's really, it covers a lot of areas. And the biggest thing that a lot of people kind of focus on is when they hear TISMO, they go directly to the technology. They think it's an ITS application type thing, but it's an overall umbrella that really encompasses a lot of the programs and on-call contracts that KYTC already has. And so it's really, I view it more as it's a collaborative effort to provide a better solution to solve the problems that we have. And so next slide that we have here is just it's something that FHWA put together. It's something that we, really like talking about, because it shows how TISMO can be incorporated into the various levels inside a transportation cabinet or a DOT. And it gives just some, basic examples of it. It's not just the maintenance and construction and the transportation management side. It also talks about how the executive leadership, it's got to be integrated throughout. And it's just got to be a little bit of a mindset change, similar to the shift prioritization program. We're doing things just a little bit differently, using a lot of the same processes, but trying to bring in a lot of different people in to come up with what the best solution is. So who are the champions? Everybody in the room and everybody that you can think of that works for the cabinet is a champion. It's, again, a collaborative process. how do we do this better? How do we do it smarter? Understanding what the needs are, understanding what the resources are as well, to determine what the best solution is. So for this initial TISMO program plan study, what we did was we tried to get together an array of people that could be on the stakeholder group. And so we listed a couple of them here, but included FHWA, a couple MPOs, and then various people from KYTC, as you can see, ranging from public affairs to OIT, all the way out to some district traffic and CDEs. So I'll hand it back over to Steve to kind of talk about the strategic and the vision.
So what we wanted to do, a program plan typically contains three elements. Would be a strategic element, a programmatic element, and an implementation element. And starting with the strategic element, we were thinking about the long range plan earlier. It kind of sets that stage. It creates the vision that you want to go after for what TISMO looks like for the cabinet. And so basically the big question is, and it's up there, how can TISMO help us accomplish our goals? And we wanted to tie everything that we were doing back to the cabinet's or the department's action plan, which includes the promote safety in all decision making down all the way through creating a culture of diversity and inclusion. Some of those more applicable to TISMO, some of them less applicable to TISMO. But the point is, like Chris said, it's kind of something that we see permeating throughout the cabinet's operations, just like how also PBFS started to kind of work its way into a lot of different types of decision making. We envision the same thing kind of happening here. And so the next step of that was, once you kind of get your strategy kind of lined up, is okay, what kind of changes need to be made for this to actually work in Kentucky? Like what needs to what does the program need to look like? And where do we start with that? And so we identified 71 actions. It's like hiring someone, which takes 85 different actions, 71 different actions that might need to take place. And some of these move the needle quite a lot. And one of them is, very basic: establish the TISMO program, which is what we're doing. And formalizing a stakeholder group. We kind of already did that. If anyone that was involved in it didn't realize, you got put on the TISMO stakeholder group. But also doing things like developing the TISMO training program, integrating TISMO, and during like the planning process, the scoping process, the project development process, thinking about those types of solutions in the highway plan projects, and then also getting a baseline just for everybody what TISMO is. And we'll talk about that in a second as we move forward here. In terms of outcomes, we have a nice roadmap that's intentionally not quite legible because it's not done yet and it's not finalized. But we have an action plan. We have a set of steps that we're going to take to help us implement this this new kind of thinking, this new idea into our operations. And so, like I mentioned, we're developing WSP is developing a TISMO 101 class that is going to be an instructor-led half-day course that will kind of set a baseline for all KYTC personnel, but as well, it could be outside personnel as well, to basically get you to understand what TISMO is and what that framework looks like. And then we're going to supplement that with other national resources that we already have access to, either through our partnership with the Eastern Transportation Coalition or some FHWA things. There's lots, or ITS Midwest. There's lots of different opportunities out there for training. But then the documentation is still being finalized. I can't wait to share it with you when it is actually done and available. And then, so to wrap up the TISMO program plan, we're going to finalize that roadmap and use that to kind of hit our quick wins, our high impact, low costs, just like in a planning study, which ones we can do first and go about establishing the program. we are going to continue to engage with the Operations Academy, something that I did last year, which was super successful and super important for me. It helps kind of create those focus people within the cabinet. And I've gotten a commitment to that, even if scholarships aren't available, which they usually are, the cabinet is going to be able to send 2 people to that per year. And so we're going to grow our bench of people who are excited about TISMO. And then, you know, I'm just going to keep being an advocate in planning studies. You're not going to be able to get rid of me advocating for TISMO and planning, at least. So that's where TISMO, the program plan, sits. And so we're going to move on to the ATDM study, and then do questions at the end. Maybe that makes sense. Okay. So now on to the Northern Kentucky Active Traffic Demand Management Study.
I'll start this one off. All right, so we also had the pleasure to work with HCR on the Northern Kentucky ATDM study. And so just wanted to provide a quick update on where that's at. And so just walking through the agenda. So first off, just like the last one, another acronym. So give you another definition. Talk about some of the applications that we looked at in particular based on what was in the RFP. And really what I wanted to kind of talk with you all about today is just, you know, what's needed to decide what some of these applications should be for this type of study. And then just some considerations as well for each. And then the prioritization effort that we went through, and then what I'll let Steve talk about what some of the next steps are for this study as well. So ATDM is the dynamic management and control and influence of travel demand, traffic demand, and traffic flow of transportation facilities. So this is a lot more focused on kind of what you would think of as happening inside of TMC. So we got a picture inside of Trimark here on the right, and then also just kind of the circular flow of how things work. It's about putting something in place, monitoring it, operating it, see what the impacts are, and make a better decision to change operations. So for some of the applications that were included in the RFP, and if you want to talk about any of these in particular, I'll hand it over to you, but if not, I'll just roll with it. So the RFP asks for basically the kitchen sink of, hey, throw everything out there, what might work. So everything listed here was in the sorry. It's for the Northern Kentucky interstate system. So 71, 75, 275, and then 471 is the area that we were looking at. So inside the RFP, we were from the RFP, looked at a whole bunch of different strategies and really thought about, hey, what could make sense in the space? Again, based on what's currently out there, what's the infrastructure condition, and then what are the resources that are available. So we'll go ahead and go to the next one and start talking about what we need to decide. So a little different because we're looking at active management, actual traffic operations type projects. It's not just purely, hey, we need another lane, but where do we need another lane? So looking at things like the OD patterns, it's awesome to hear that we've got a streetlight subscription now through KYTC. So being able to use some of those pieces of data sets for future projects is going to be huge. What's different a little bit on a ITS, actual traffic management, traffic operations project is really looking at from a volumes perspective. ADT isn't the best for looking at a PM peak situation. And so looking at actual peak hour volumes are important, but even getting down into, what's that 15-minute interval that creates the most issue for us, and how do we back out from there? Understanding the safety components of it. So what types of crashes are there? Where are they? And how might some of those applications help mitigate some of those? Understanding the physical constraints. So again, in Northern Kentucky, there's not a whole bunch of room to just create more, put down more asphalt. So looking at right-of-way availability, but also, what are current pavement widths? What are current bridge widths to figure out what might or might not be feasible depending on the level of investment. And then just the resources. Again, a lot of these things require some additional staff resources to monitor and operate. And so keeping that in mind and really thinking about, what's the easiest way to, like we were saying with TISMO, move the needle and get some positive outcomes so that we can further invest. It was critical in how we did some of this. So for each application, what we kind of went through was we did a high level look at, benefit costs from across the country, what other studies had documented. We considered the ability to scale, looked at the volumes, that traffic data that we talked about, used a couple different things, the ODs as well. And then also considered like when to deploy, how to deploy. So again, that prioritization piece. So what we had kind of finalized from the stakeholder committee meeting, the stakeholder meetings that we had, was thinking about easy things to scale and quick things to do that could provide the biggest bang for the buck. Queue warning, comparative travel times across the network, and then looking at ramp metering, and then also considered some dynamic shoulder use in certain spots up here in the Northern Kentucky area. So again, for the prioritization effort, what we were looking, or what we kind of ended up with, was kind of that same order. Comparative travel time was the easiest one to kind of, it's an existing system. It's really just adding some more infrastructure in certain spots. So that was our number one priority to kind of put in there. Queue warning is kind of the same thing. There's the demonstration project up on 7175 currently. And so understanding, again, what's the level of effort that it would take for Trimark to be able to add more signs or add more corridors to the project was what we were looking to do. And then we looked at, again, that dynamic shoulder use to get some of that additional capacity on that 471 section as well. And that was the one that had, based on some of the previous work that had been done over the last few decades of construction, had that bridge width that was there to be able to use some of that space. So, and then, yeah, Steve, you'll talk about next steps.
Yeah, so some potential next steps. I'm not going to get up here and say that these are definitely going to happen, but these are some opportunities that exist. As you know, some of these things could be incorporated right away into the Brent Spence Bridge project, especially for maintenance of traffic purposes. As you're looking to construct a very large project on a very busy corridor, some of these things will be really good to look at. There's a couple of studies that we're probably going to bundle together that are in the 6-year plan. 6-23 and 6-81 are both on 471 that particularly the things like the ramp metering or the dynamic shoulder use on 471 would merit a closer look. And then there's a pot of money in the Z various section of the 6-year plan for ITS and TSMO. TSMO called out specifically, I think it's 2 million of federal dollars and 5 million of state dollars per year that there's a lot of potential for, but that would include both, you know, small scale deployments as well as potentially large scale deployments. One of the issues that we identified in the program plan was that if you want to do a large deployment like something like this on a corridor level, it kind of has to come through the normal project development process, which hasn't traditionally been set up well to use these kinds of ideas as potential alternatives. And that's one thing that the TSMO program plan is going to take hand in hand with something like this, to be able to put these things on an equal footing with just adding lanes. But in Northern Kentucky, you don't have room to add lanes anymore. So that's kind of where this came from. Any questions for me and Chris?
Nope, not in the chat. Hey, anybody else got a question?
Yep.
Want to ask OKI if they have any, some of the recommendations that are coming out of this study, how do they correlate to TSMO proposals when you had your training that came to the Cincinnati area? And does this study cover 3 counties or 2 counties, or what areas is it covering?
Yeah, it did cover Kenton, Campbell, and Boone. We looked at the entirety of 275, 7175, 471. But the section of 275 west of the airport didn't really have a lot of needs that would be TSMO appropriate. In terms of how it correlates with what Bob is doing.
Well, the workshop that came several years ago, one of the things they recommended was variable speeds on the bridge. And I didn't know if you looked into that or if that's what's going to be in the next step.
Well, we looked at corridors rather than spot locations, and the data that we had available to us was effective, but in order to take the next step in the development process, we need to boil it down a little bit more refined. But what some of the outcome that I think surprised me was the actual benefits of ramp metering and queue warning signs. I thought maybe there might be more opportunities for hard shoulder running than we end up getting a positive. There was one location on 471 that Chris mentioned that holds a promise there. So it was successful. go in and see the final report, but I pretty much have seen most of it. And it's to be determined which of these projects or range of projects get implemented. It's already alluded to that they collectively, in many cases, make sense to be advanced as groups or at least associated projects. So I know it's a long way of saying it depends, but it depends.
Yeah, in summary, for the people online, it depends. That's in a minute and a half. That can be summed up. But like I said, we'll get this one published and everyone will be able to read it here soon. The EV plan kind of took out all of the air of WSP and HDR's capacity. So, but that was important because the feds are giving us $80 million for that. So, or close to it. But yeah, so thank you all, and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Chris and Steve. And I finally got them on camera there at the very last tidbit there. And thanks, Scott, for passing that microphone over there to Bob. Let's see, we're running a little bit behind schedule, but Chandler, if you're online, we'll take a break right now, guys. Get up and stretch your legs and go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do, and then we'll come back at 10. Let's see what time it is. We'll start back at 10:40 with Chandler, if you can hear that, Chandler. I'm sure if you get on there, start talking, I'll say something.
Yeah, can y'all hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, let's just start. Chandler, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll start back at 10:40 if that's okay with you.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm really gonna miss everybody, really.
Well, yeah.
Some more than others.
Yeah. Don't say it too close to that.
Well, I won't mention names, but no, I've thoroughly enjoyed my career here and looking forward to some time off and then who knows?
Getting into something else.
Who knows?
Absolutely. No, that's good.
I've been on the consultant side before.
Yeah.
Jay, is this mic still live?
All right, guys, 10:40. Got a lot of people up chatting and hanging out, which is good to see. Live in-person audience. Getting to chit chat a little bit. It's nice to see you. Tom, I see you over there. It's nice to see you guys. So let's see, 10:40. Let me intro Chandler Duncan. Metro Analytics. Chandler has served as project manager for the Kentucky Riverports Highway Rail Study. He's a national leader in assessing the impacts of freight movement, investing in alternatives for all modes of transportation. He's served in leadership roles on 9 national initiatives of the National Cooperative Highway Research Program, establishing best practices on corridor management, network resilience, resource allocation, economic impacts of transportation investments. And he holds a master's degree in business administration and urban planning from the University of Minnesota and the University of North Carolina, respectively. So with that, Chandler, let's see, everybody's kind of coming back in the room here in person. So thanks, guys, for bearing with us and being flexible with the schedule. And we'll kick it off with Chandler. Go ahead, Chandler.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good, and I can see it in your presentation.
Okay, and everybody can see this screen. Well, I appreciate everybody being here and inviting me to come and share a lot of what we've learned about Kentucky's Riverport community, as well as its role in the transportation system, and some of the recommendations that we have coming out of what has been more than 2 years of work with the Kentucky Riverport economy. So I'm going to share today some of the things that we have learned in the process. The first thing that I would like to share about how we conducted the study with the Kentucky Riverports in order to really understand their role and some directions that Kentucky can go moving forward. The first task undertaken was really to understand the markets for waterborne transportation in Kentucky. What's happening to that market within a changing economy, and what can it do? This was especially challenging because we were undertaking this during COVID. So that was really very much a moving target. But also then understanding the economic development process in Kentucky, where Kentucky's economy is headed, where the economies of the trading partners are headed, and then looking at how that relates to a business case for what should be invested in the Riverports, how that investment should be expected to support the economy, and how we can evaluate that investment. And then finally telling the story and really being able to communicate in things like this presentation, but also different brochures and other resources about exactly what we have learned and what we believe needs to be done for the Riverport system. So some of the things that we've learned, I mean, this is something that we had already understood, but one of the governing principles of the entire study had to do with the fact that that you can move the actual tonnage of 115 barge tow on what would take you 216 rail cars and over 1,000 trucks on the transportation system. So Kentucky's ability to move goods by water can create significant efficiency in terms of what it takes to get freight through the economy and in the economy. And so the more that Kentucky is able to use its Riverport system, the less it will cost to access a lot of goods in Kentucky and making Kentucky more economically competitive. So some of the key things that we learned were that the Kentucky Riverports really connect Kentucky to both the national and global economy. We learned a lot about the different commodities that are being traded and how they're being traded. An important observation was that 19% of the tonnage on Kentucky's transportation system moves by water, but that's only 3% of the value. So the rivers are really moving a lot of commodities that don't necessarily have a high per ton value, but have a tremendous amount of tonnage that would be relatively expensive to move by other modes. Another critical finding is that the growth potential in the Riverport market includes manufacturing, food and beverage, trade, logistics, aluminum, some of the metals, also some of the chemical manufacturing and other sectors that fit into your automotive supply chains and some of your advanced manufacturing. That is a new and growing role the Riverports can serve in Kentucky. We also learned that the Kentucky waterways are carrying 80 million tons of freight worth over $18 billion in the present year. Even during 2020 with COVID going on, 59% of the new jobs in Kentucky were actually from new business locations. That suggests that there is a significant evolving and emerging market of potential new customers for Riverports. And we also found, though, that Kentucky's funding, when you look at Kentucky's Riverport program compared to other programs, it is not quite as generous or robust as what some of the other states have. And so we looked at some of the different options and implications of that disparity. Other things that we learned were about what is moving, again, what is moving on Kentucky's rivers. And we found that the petroleum and crude is still a big part of it. 89% of it is basically in the top 5 commodity groups, which is our petroleum and crude and our coal, and then our aggregate and grains, and then our chemicals. And so we have right now a market that is really driven by relatively few commodities. There are growth in some new areas, such as growth in oils, plastics, warehouse distribution, grain, and other areas. And that's going to be important because coal is going to be less a part of Kentucky's economy in the future. All of the federal forecasts and the other forecasts we were able to purchase showed that you're going to have a lot less coal tonnage moving, especially in the private river ports, but you do have some growing areas. 18% of the freight growth, basically Kentucky's freight market is expected to grow by 18%, but if current trends stay in place, there might be a slight decline in the waterway use. Again, that's related to changes in the coal market. Also, more than half of Kentucky's freight could be carried by water on some portion of the journey, just based on the commodity mix and the different places where the freight is moving in Kentucky. So there is a significant opportunity to carry some new things on the waterway system. Some other things that we discovered were changing in the economy was that there was a reduction in the energy market, and that is increasing competition among river ports. And that, again, is going back to moving less coal. And for that reason, attracting some of the new anchor clients from the new business that comes into Kentucky is going to be really important for Kentucky to continue to be able to use the rivers in its supply chains, because it's going to entail moving a different type of commodity, potentially for different types of clients. So in the economic development process, the more that Kentucky can attract and retain anchor clients that are going to be able to use the waterways, that will help Kentucky to still have the cost advantage of being able to move things by water. The river ports also are going to have to capture what I would call more than their share to stay in business, because of just the structural changes that are forecast in the economy, that are already occurring in the economy. In order for the river ports to move the same share of Kentucky's tonnage that they do today, the river ports are going to have to start picking up some new types of commodities and some new customers, again, largely because of the changes in some of the coal and fossil fuel markets. Plastics, medicals, chemicals, and others, again, can support the automotive and advanced manufacturing supply chains. There are a lot of opportunities in the changes in Kentucky's economy that have been identified that can be read about in the report as to what the market can do. And this is just kind of some of the numbers that support that. Again, with the fuels, you're seeing significant national increase in those markets, but you're seeing a significantly less movement on Kentucky's waterways of fuels. And the projection, the forecasts are that that's going to decline even further. But at the same time, with things like minerals, minerals are also, fuels and minerals have both declines more so than what's happening at the national level. But at the same time, what you have happening is you see in Kentucky and nationally, you see significant increases in things like plastic, rubber, textiles, and machinery. You also see increasing movement in food and livestock related commodities, which is actually projecting to increase both in Kentucky and nationally. These represent growth opportunities for the river port market if they can be, the markets can be captured by the river ports. Within Kentucky's supply chains, again, the most significant commodities we find were the metals, the plastics, the rubbers, and the chemicals. Those type of commodities are moved by water, are forecast to grow in Kentucky. And those are some areas where if new establishments can be attracted to the river port trade area, that there will be potentially significant opportunities to very efficiently move things into Kentucky for supply chains that utilize those types of commodities. This leads to choices that Kentucky can make about what to do with river ports. One of the big things is to invest in restructuring the ports so that they can handle this different, more diverse commodity market versus scaling back and potentially the rivers playing somewhat less of a role, but also building home markets around ports. As I mentioned before, the potential that in the economic development process, you can attract new business to Kentucky that takes advantage of that lower cost transportation. That doesn't happen unless the economic development entities in and around Kentucky actively seek out and attract firms to come and transact business in Kentucky, supportive of those supply chains just mentioned earlier. Also, collaboration and competition. The river ports are either private or sometimes quasi-private entity largely. Kentucky's public river ports are operating within what is often a competitive economy. And sometimes river ports will compete among states, or states will compete for those anchor tenants and for those users. But collaboration can be very important. If you look at the slide here under the home markets, you see that the market for Kentucky's river ports is shown in green. It extends into a number of different states. More than 5 other states are actually within a market that could utilize Kentucky's river ports. So you find the potential of collaborating across state lines, across jurisdictions, to try to have a holistic strategy for this, what we call the river port hinterland, could be very important for ensuring that Kentucky's river ports can continue to carry what they carry with the efficiency advantages that they have. So what does the future hold? I think that some of the things that we find is that aggressive strategies for attracting clients to the river port system, looking to create, retain, and expand industries and firms that are trading in those commodities found in the study to be growth commodities for Kentucky. Also, a smaller but strategic placement of river ports in the hinterland value chain. What's meant by that is really understanding what commodity we can move by water based on the findings that are in the study, which lists out those commodities for each river port, and then really looking for opportunities of who is buying or being supplied by that commodity. Where can they be in Kentucky? And also an emergent hinterland focus. As I've mentioned, instead of focusing just on Kentucky or one individual river port, increasingly focusing on that whole market, because there is no jurisdiction or entity that is really responsible for the Ohio River hinterland or the other hinterlands that span across those state lines. And being able to establish infrastructure priorities and economic development prospects at that level will enable Kentucky to benefit and be able to continue to offer its competitively priced waterborne transportation services. This is just another example of that multi-state development market that we're talking about. There is no singular governmental entity right now that is responsible for the economic development or the infrastructure prioritization serving the river across this whole green area. It requires significant collaboration. And one of the findings and recommendations of the study is a structure within that collaboration can occur. Some of the interested parties, there are a number of entities that do share this Kentucky river port market area. And some of those examples are obviously you have the Delta Regional Authority, you have the Institute for Trade and Transportation Studies, you have the Mississippi Ohio River Confluence Economic Alliance, Appalachian Regional Commission, Mid-America Freight Coalition, American Waterways Operators. These are all groups that actually have the ability to look at that whole market, but none of them focus explicitly on it. But these are all potential partners to collaborate with in developing and sustaining Kentucky's river port markets. But that also means that in order to upgrade, to be able to enable to allow the Kentucky river ports to move some of these new commodities that have been found, is going to require both preserving the ports as they currently are, as well as modernizing the ports and potentially expanding their capabilities with new equipment, new technology, and in some cases, additional area or warehousing or other things that can be needed in order to move those goods. Collectively, that's about $220 million of investment needs for river ports were identified in the study. That includes about just over $12 million of just preservation funding, preservation just to keep it as it is. And again, 51 million to modernize, but the largest item being the expansion market, the investment to be able to expand into the new markets. So how much should the state of Kentucky or the Commonwealth of Kentucky invest? Well, what we found in our analysis was that essentially, if you were going to invest $12 million, a one-time $12 million investment just for Kentucky into its river ports, that would obviously cost you just over $12 million. You would probably get about $29 million of benefits by preserving the river ports and being able to just continue using them. The other investments can be the modernization and expansion collectively comes to about $6.7 million. And that would be annually over a 5-year period. And the modernization improvements will have significantly higher benefits per dollar than, the expansion investments will yield a higher economic benefit per dollar than the modernization. So you see $834 million of benefit for $158 million worth of investment. The reason being that those expansion investments are actually enabling Kentucky to continue to move more tonnage of more commodities. It starts to replace some of the tonnage that might otherwise have to come by truck or rail, that's a bit more modally competitive than the coal that's moving right now, especially in private river ports. And again, these are public river port investments we're talking about, but it's happening within a changing marketplace. So overall, by investing $58 million in the infrastructure, Kentucky can probably cover as much as $222 million of capital costs. Now, the reason for that is because you can leverage the state investment dollars for the modernization and expansion to qualify for federal matches and a lot of the discretionary grant programs and other programs that are out through the bipartisan infrastructure law. So you could actually cover up to $222 million of river port investment, generating over $1 billion of benefits in Kentucky's economy by 2045. So how do you invest and leverage federal dollars? Well, there are a couple of different areas that you can invest in. Infrastructure, environment, economic development, and resilience. And there's a very significant funding pool federally for these different programs, even more so under the BIL. And each of the programs and their total funding amount is listed in the study. But just for example, with $40 billion of potential assistance across these different areas, only 1% of that, if Kentucky was to pick that up, would yield $400 million, which is more than the $222 million of needs that were identified during the time of this study. So those benefits, again, can create significant benefit cost ratios. I had mentioned before that the expansion has a much higher benefit to cost ratio than modernization. Modernization has a higher benefit cost ratio than preservation. But overall, when you look at the total benefit for all of the money, state and federal, that can be invested in Kentucky's river ports, we see about a fourfold increase in benefits to the state's economy for every dollar that could be invested in the river ports. And so essentially there were kind of three different investment categories that also have wider economic impacts. By wider impacts, what I mean is that when Kentucky saves that money or enjoys the dollars of benefit from moving things efficiently by waterway, that benefit is able to be used in Kentucky by Kentucky's business to make and sell more products, which contribute to the gross domestic product, which contribute to household earnings, and that means jobs in Kentucky. So you have potentially $37 million more of goods that can be made and sold in Kentucky by preserving your river ports than if you did not preserve them. You have an additional $154 million worth of goods by 2045 that you could make and sell if you modernize the river ports in ways envisioned by the interviews and the discussions that came into this study. And then if you actually expand the river ports to pick up some of those new supply chain markets, you could see $473 million of additional goods made and sold from Kentucky. So what that comes to is potentially $665 million worth of Kentucky's business sales could be on the line in terms of how much we decide to invest in our river ports. And that's $201 million of income to Kentucky's households. And that's about $304 million on Kentucky's GDP cumulatively in the period all the way up to 2045. And again, the Ohio River is also a multi-state marine corridor of national significance. And it's worth pointing out that the bipartisan infrastructure law recognizes marine corridors as eligible for funding. So if Kentucky does form a multi-state compact around the river in Kentucky, then they can be eligible for up to $2 million for a new multi-state compact and $1 million for an existing compact. This would be a new compact for Kentucky if Kentucky were to enter into a partnership with its neighbors to develop the river port market. So what is next from the study? I think we find that funding is a critical need, and we find a number of different pathways in this bipartisan infrastructure law environment to do that. We talk about the creation of a river port hinterland compact, which could be a multi-state, multi-jurisdictional entity that would both fund and identify infrastructure and economic development priorities for the river port hinterland explicitly. And then also marketing the ports and really demonstrating to those critical market segments what they can do and how they can do it. One of the recommendations is for Kentucky to have a waterways legislative caucus, like some of the other caucuses that are available from the legislature, and that they would really look at the issues of the hinterland market within the context of larger state economic development infrastructure policy. They could support resolutions, they could assess Kentucky's grant programs, and they could also facilitate participation in that multi-state compact that could really focus on the development prospects, the infrastructure. By developing the Hinterland Compact, what was recommended in the study is to use this Riverport study to seek additional funding from, for example, the Economic Development Administration and some other partners that will then involve state and regional partners in identifying the concept of operation and how you would structure that compact to be a self-funding entity. And then also focusing on the Riverport hinterland as its top priority, and doing that through an initiation study that would basically create concepts for the different things that the hinterland compact would do, which would include recruitment of waterway clients, reviewing the capacity and modernization needs, establishing multi-state funding for those priorities, and really making business intelligence available about what clients are using the Riverports and why, subscribing that there are a number of private data sources recommended for doing market research into the Kentucky Riverport market. So additional information, there's a lot of information available from this study that is available at the KYTC website. The full report is digitally available. There are port profiles for each of Kentucky's public river ports where you can really see the specific assets on that port property, as well as its proximity within the larger context of Kentucky's transportation system. There's a series of technical memoranda showing how the findings of the study were derived across a number of different summits and stakeholder activities that happened in the last couple of years. And then also the proceedings from those summits and the different presentations given are available so that you can see a lot about how we learned what we learned. And so these are the resources available through the study, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thanks, Chandler. Does anybody got any questions for Chandler? Let's see if I can. I don't see any in the audience. See the chat box, nobody in the chat box. So Chandler, thanks for your time. And if they have questions, would I guess just email me, or I can get them to Chandler, however best you want to do that.
Yeah, Jeremy Edgeworth at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has been the project manager for the project, at KYTC, and he has all of the information from the study. I'm also happy to take questions, and I will send this. I think I've already sent this presentation, but we can add the contact information as well. So happy to answer any questions.
It's fascinating to me to see that screen with the the billions and stuff, the future projections of savings and economy. So that's it's fascinating you were able to get that information to us. And again, thanks for your time.
All right, thanks everybody.
Okay, let's see, on to the next speaker. Susan was down here with me yesterday. We had it all hooked up good, didn't we, Susan? And then this morning we couldn't get the thing hooked up to the internet. So she'll sit up here with me. Hey, you say wave hi there. I got you on camera for a few minutes. And then when I share, it's going to be an intro. Turn off my Baker timer. Okay, Ms. Susan Oatman. Mrs. Susan Oatman currently serves as statewide LPA coordinator for the Division of Program Management. Along with those duties, she is involved with KYTC's USDOT federal discretionary grant efforts and the administration of past discretionary grant awards. Susan joined KYTC in 2007. She has worked in District 1, District 5, and Central Office. During the past 15 years, she served as a permit supervisor, planning supervisor, traffic engineering supervisor, and design section supervisor, and a district environmental coordinator, which I did not know that, Susan. You got all kinds of experience going on there. Yeah, welcome, Susan. And this topic is IIJA bill updates, and she's with LPA. So, if you guys have any specific questions on the grants and things, she'll cover a few of these in her presentation. So let me put this microphone up here for you. Okay, let's see. So share my screen. And share my screen.
It's up there. Oh,
All right, everybody see that okay? I think so. And take it away, Susan.
okay. Thanks. Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, I'm just here to give a quick update. I know that John Ballantyne was here this morning, so hopefully I won't go over much of what he spoke on. Not really here to tell you about each of the grant opportunities. I'm really wanting to update you on what projects that I know that have been submitted for ones that are out on the street or ones that we're working on. So we'll get right into it. These are grant programs of special interest to KYTC, and the ones that my group is primarily focused on are ones that deal with highways, roadways, bridges, that sort of thing. Of course, there's other cabinets that are going after other grant awards. There's just a lot of stuff out there right now, but this is our focus. So the first one that came out was the RAISE grant, and KYTC worked with locals on 4 grants on the application and the submittal. And I'll just cover those real quick. The first one was the Pambo Lake Corridor project, and it's along Kentucky 15 in Breathitt County. And the city of Jackson they actually submitted the application for this project. And what's very unique is this section of Kentucky 15, actually, part of it is an earthen dam for Pambo Lake. And I don't know if you recall, but early in 2021, they had a major flood incident regarding the dams for this lake, and this road flooded. So this project that was submitted mostly focused on resiliency and safety. So the project did some updated capacity for that corridor through there. It's also going to do some work on the earthen dams that will help prevent that future event from happening like what they experienced. And it added multi-use sidewalks and multi-use paths along the corridor as well. The second one was Christian County submitted that one. That's Kentucky 115. And this is a corridor where they needed to improve the safety, the geometry. And this is a corridor where you have a lot of granary trucks that travel. And then there's also a nearby industrial park. So they get a lot of that traffic going through there. So that was the main focus of that application. Third one is Kentucky 536 Priority Section 3. And Kenton County submitted this application. This is an important east-west connection in that county along Kentucky 536. And the improvements include some widening, geometry, and it also includes a multi-use path. I'll go back. The Christian County one also added wider shoulders. So that will help with that because they have a large Amish community there. So skipping on down to the fourth application, McCracken County submitted that. It's the Kentucky 1286 project. And this is an important connection from US 45 to US 60 in Paducah. And this also was primarily focused on safety, improved geometry, and also added a multi-use path. So those are the 4 that we were highly involved with. Others that we know of that were submitted, Lexington submitted one for the High Street project. Louisville submitted one for a 9th Street project. And also they submitted one planning grant for the Broadway project. Covington submitted one for the Central Riverfront project. And then I know you just heard about the West Kentucky Regional Riverport Authority, and they submitted one for that Riverport development as well. And I will go ahead and put a little note on here that all the ones I talk about, these are just projects that we know of. There could be others that were submitted across the state. We don't know, locals, other entities can submit, and we don't always know, if they are. So just wanted to put that little footnote on there. The next one that came out was the Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant, MPDG. We love our acronyms. I don't know if John Ballantyne really went into this one too much this morning, but what is unique about this is what they did was they took the infra grant opportunity, the mega grant opportunity, and the rural surface transportation opportunity and combined it kind of in one submittal, not really one grant opportunity, but one submittal. So therefore it helped eligible entities where they were just submitting one application. And how it worked is you would submit the application and you could kind of check, yes, I'm submitting it and I want it to be considered for all three. Or, you know, I just want to be considered for infra. And all of that would depend on what the criteria was and what the project was. So that was helpful that that was just one big submittal. And KYTC, we put all of our eggs in one basket for this, and we submitted the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor project, and that was a joint application with Ohio. And that is the only one that we submitted for our state, and I believe Ohio did the same. We also submitted a small application for a National Scenic Byways program, and that proposed project is to do an inventory and compile a database of all the byways in Kentucky. And the thought is to link that to points of interest and have that in a GIS application. So we're envisioning that it could be useful for trip planning. You know, someone goes on there and they're headed toward a point of interest, but they want to hit some byways along while they travel there. So that's kind of our big thoughts for that. And if we received an award for that and we're able to proceed with that project, we're hoping that we can work with tourism, and this would eventually be a tool that they could use and hopefully maybe, you know, run with it after that. The Bridge Investment Program is currently on the street. You can do a planning application, a large bridge application, or just what they call a bridge application. Those are dependent upon project cost. Kentucky is going for, once again, the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor project along, it's going to be a joint application along with Ohio once again. And that will be, of course, in the large bridge category. Also on the street is Safe Streets for All. And this one is different because state DOTs are not eligible to apply. But well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. And I think Valentine did go over this one. You can apply for a safety action plan grant or an implementation grant. An implementation grant would be more of like a capital grant where you're trying to get money to construct projects. But the thing you need to note is, in order to get that, those projects have to be listed in an approved safety action plan. So if you don't have one, you either need to put one together and have those projects listed in there, or you can apply for grant funds to help you draft that safety action plan. I will say that the Kentucky Transportation Center has been working along with our ads across Kentucky, and they are really encouraging them to apply, and they're kind of offering their assistance in applications and even in drafting the actual safety action plan if they were to receive an award. So that's really encouraging. KYTC, we have been involved in those discussions, and hopefully, you know, we'll see some applications come out of that that are just going to help promote safety across the state. Another one that's out on the street is Roadway Crossing Elimination Program. KYTC is going to be submitting an application for the Kentucky 1136 project that's in Hardin County. This is the section of 1136 that's on the south side of the big industrial park in Hardin County. And I think you probably remember that the governor did the big announcement for the electric vehicle, the battery plant that's going to be going in. So going to be generating a lot of traffic through there. And this is the hopes of improving that section of roadway and possibly eliminating that railroad crossing that's along there. Then there's the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. And KYTC will be submitting an application it's a project on Broadway in Lexington there at the RJ Corman overpass. That one is twofold. They have drainage issues that they experience along there, so that would be improving that. And also there are no pedestrian facilities that go along Broadway through that overpass. So that would be improving that to improve that connection. Others that will be coming down the road are congestion relief program, Protect, which is sort of a resiliency focus, the EV charging program, National Electric Vehicle Formula Program. There's a small set aside for discretionary funding. I know you guys heard about that this morning. And then we're expecting the SMART grant to come out very soon. And that's more like a technology, ITS. So that should be a good one as well. LPA program updates, just real quickly. We are in process of updating the LPA guide. As you can imagine, I think I've been saying this for months and months, but all of a sudden I got quite busy after November of last year. I'm not sure why, but I think it's because of what I just talked about. But so we are in the process of reviewing reviewing and updating all of the chapters. But we just want to remind you that the guide and the forms are often updated. This isn't just a, once in a year thing or every couple of years. So it's always best to refer to the guide from the web page. Don't really keep a downloaded copy, but if you're wanting to reference it, go ahead and get on the web page and pull up the chapters from there. I did want to touch on the recent construction bids. I know our LPAs are experiencing higher cost. Kentucky or KYTC is experiencing the same thing. We're having higher costs. We have contractors having issue with the delivery of some materials, which is causing some issues. So I just want to put out there to consider, if you go back, if you're working with locals and LPAs, consider prioritizing projects if they're concerned about potential higher than anticipated cost. Maybe they need to look at what they're going to have coming out soon and prioritize those and say, okay, this is our top priority. So we'll put this one out on the street and maybe see how it comes in. Also want to recommend a close evaluation of the engineer's estimate. Make sure that they are using some current costs that reflect what's been going on lately, not average unit bid prices that have been averaged over years. So look at that. I recommend consideration of additive and deductive alternates. So you have the option of having that base bid, and then if it does come in a little less than you thought, and you can add alternates in, or the opposite way, you can have them in there and you can deduct if it comes in too high. But that's one thing to consider that may help with these bids and what we're experiencing. And I did want to put a plug in for Rick Stansel. He is in program management and he works with us on our LPA program. He's an excellent resource when it comes to construction procurement and getting these projects ready for bid. So I encourage you to reach out to him to help with that.
All right.
Any questions?
Let's see. Anybody got any questions for Susan? Yeah, that was a good summary, Susan. Yeah. So let's see these slides. Is it okay to put these slides on the website?
Mhm.
Okay.
Let me give you, I'll give you the version.
Okay. So let's see. Is there anything in the chat here? No.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hey, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Susan, even before inflation was the issue it is now, our LPAs are often challenged with delivering projects on time. Could you describe how they might improve that process or things to look out for, or any suggestions that you might have for the overall programs?
Ooh,
I know it's open-ended.
yeah.
In other words, we got an email from John today, John Moore, and he was pointing out the fact that we have balances that are accumulating and we need to spend them down. And it seems we can't move projects fast enough. And I don't really know what the issue is. It's probably a combination of things. In urban areas, you have right of way. That's always a challenge. But what other things are people doing not as well as they should or could?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And it really depends on where it's getting stalled out as to what phase of the project. And I know you mentioned right away. There's not, if you have to have right away for your project, you're kind of strapped there, because if you have to have it, sometimes that process is just lengthy. And that's real hard to speed that up unless you can eliminate parcels. I assume that they're working with their district cabinet districts to help navigate through those processes. That would really help. I don't know if these projects are district administered, or if you're talking about projects that are administered out of OLP, like a TAP or a CMAQ project.
It's more of a general question or concern. All projects have been moving slowly, and now inflation is going to slow them down even more, as you noted. So we're just trying to do better, but it never seems to get any better.
John should be able to help now. Putting John in that position over project delivery will be that'd be an interesting move. Hopefully he brings that planning experience.
They flipped
And,
that. I think.
Did they? Well,
or
John,
is
see,
he
John,
project delivery?
see, John was
Yeah,
over, he was over project.
I don't know.
Yeah,
who
you're right. I'm
Who are
sorry.
you talking about, John?
no,
John Moore. Yeah.
Is that who they sent you the email you said?
No, well, it went from him to Thomas Witt.
Okay. So yeah, John was over, like, he's been a director of planning and he was in design, I know, for a while. So it'll be neat to have his perspective in the construction maintenance type arena. And see what he brings to the table, because I know he'll be a good asset for that particular question. So if it came from him too, I'd be interested to see how we work together, if we can improve that flow or not. But John probably he's probably the one that had the better answer to it.
And it's kind of a complicated question too, because it sounds like you're dealing with MPO type projects.
Right.
So depending on how your MPO is set up, if you see projects that aren't moving as quickly, if you have the option to move projects around and bring them forward, some MPOs don't have that option, but that helps get the money spent quicker. That's on the balance of the MPO. I think a lot of it just comes down to good project management. And I'd say a lot of those MPO projects they're probably district administered.
They are, yes.
So just, working closely with the districts and just really good project manager. You just have to keep the project going. It takes it takes management. Yeah, that's kind of that's a big question. That's hard to answer. And
well, yeah, I know it would be. And I know in most cases, it's a combination of things that, some are just things beyond control of the project manager. So whatever. So I was just picking your brain to see if you had anything worth.
Well, it is. And two,
into.
I think now, but you have a large balance. It's hard to put more projects into the system because the cities only have so much staff that can manage the projects that are on the books now and moving forward. So, it's kind of a catch-22.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Yeah, that's a good question, Bob. And I'm curious to see what how John Moore follows up with that. If there's some specific strategies that come out of that, that'd be fascinating to see. Let's see. Yeah, Bernadette, you got a question too?
Yes, Susan. I know that some states have said they don't have the capacity to help the locals, and that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet said that they will. But what is the fee? Is it 10% set, or is that the wrong understanding?
Help the locals with what?
Applying for these and implementing the projects if they are awarded the grants.
we're here more of as a resource unless we're actually, partnering like the ones that I discussed in the presentation, say the 4 projects for the raise. For the others, we're really more of a resource. We probably don't have the staff to apply and to administer the projects. And it all depends on a case by case basis, Bernadette. It kind of depends, is it a state road, a state project in the highway plan? We'll evaluate those differently. But if locals want to go for a grant, say out for a local road, we're here to be a resource, but I don't think we'll really provide a lot more help past that as far as where we would actually need to get part of the fee.
Did that answer it? Are you okay with that, Brenda? Okay, sweet. Let's see, anybody else got any questions? I don't see anything else in the chat box here. So yeah, thanks, Susan. And watch your feet there on the cables coming out. Thanks for being flexible with me here. I got some waters and some candies, mints and stuff if you want any. All right, thanks guys. Let's see. The last presentation we gave, we gave the last spot to Jason Blackburn. So if you run over Jason, we're gonna get on you. You got to ask yourself some questions. So let me intro Jason again. I've introed probably the last 4 times here. Mr. Jason Blackburn has been working in the Department of Highways for over 20 years, most of which has been in District 10. This December 2020, Jason took the role of Assistant Director, and now he is officially the full-time, right, Assistant Director of Planning now. So congratulations on that. And he's overseeing the shift process still, I believe. And everybody please welcome Jason Blackburn.
Should I just stand back here, make everybody turn around?
You can if you want to.
Put a kink in their neck, do something different?
You can if you want to. I got the camera on you up here if you want to go up here and sit down. You got a presentation or anything you want? You got any PowerPoint or anything? You don't have any slides or anything? You're just going to talk probably?
Good thing is we are going to get out early.
Nice.
I don't have slides. I don't have anything like that.
Okay.
Jacob just kind of asked for sort of an update and whatnot. No big deal. I'll try to do that really quickly to let everybody know where we stand. Believe it or not, we have been busy for the last 8 months or so in our review and trying to improve our process. We've had 5 different research projects going on, partnering with KTC, UK, various colleges. I'm on timer now. And so we do expect a few things to perhaps change, but we'll just have to see. Some of the obvious things, of course, it's crazy, but the process starts again in like 5 months. Seems like we just got finished, but it starts all over again come January. We will be getting kind of our little committee back together to go over the changes in detail and make sure that those are accepted. But what I can kind of just sort of a hint is new what's going to be proposed, and I think everything should work out. Is we will have a separate bike ped category now. That's something that a lot of people has wanted, and we are finally able to deliver that. We think it's going to have its own criteria, things of that nature. We're going to have a new resilience category, and that's going to take part of some of the stuff we did do and then combine it with some new stuff, perhaps. Looking at some changes to the economic measure. And then changes the roadside safety. I'm proposing that to be totally different, and anticipating that everybody's going to be all right with it. We've actually had some students, graduate students, like from the UK, already working for like the last 4 months, virtually driving basically every road in the state, doing some roadside scoring. And so hopefully that's not been in vain, because it is a long process. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell as far as the future and what's going to be happening. I think part of it, there's you know, people have had questions, things of that nature. So I'll take the rest of my 17 minutes and 41 seconds, you know, for any kind of, you know, questions or anything that anybody has.
Let's see, what there's some good questions. Nobody online? Nobody's got any questions for Jay? What about 6-year program? Do we notice anything like, do we notice any good feedback? Like, were we successful, I guess, with shift? Is that your question?
I mean, I think how the numbers play out, you know, you can look at it from the positive way. I think technically of all the standalone projects, you know, take out the Z various, the bridges, the resurfacing, which we don't really deal with through our process. 80% of the projects were sponsored projects, you know, so it's you know, that's good, you know, 80% come from it. There's always going to be the question of, well, this wasn't the, you know, #1, you know, scoring project in my area, you know, it didn't go through, but I mean, there's a lot of other factors here. It might not be the #1, but if we can do #2 and 3 for the same cost, which is probably you know, better for the Commonwealth. And so, you know, there's several things that come in like that. But that's basically what's going on. And, you know, and just to, you know, reiterate what we've said, you know, and I think I've said that the whole time is, you know, understand that this process is, I think the word that's always been used is to help inform. You know, it's not the final say. Just because, you know, we just don't take here's the scores and we just go top down, and that is the highway plan. Our highway plan is, you know, by law. That is a legislature developed and approved, you know, process. So there's other factors that come into it, you know, good or bad. It's how Kentucky's set up, and that's not changing anytime soon. So, but I know personally, you know, through conversations with legislatures, it is utilized. The information that we provide, you know, is utilized, and I know it's even in this last plan, you know, it you know, made a difference in proposed versus, you know, what was ultimately approved. So I think it's good that it's being recognized.
Okay, let's see. I don't see anything else, Jason. The only thing on my mind is land use. I know you said something about economic. You know, kind of just the economic development, but do any MPOs or anything use land use, like accessibility level of services? What I saw that in the National Highway Institute training, I think that Bernadette sent out to us. Do you see any, do we have any, like, do we see any future for that, I guess, for economic side, for land use, or are we kind of steering clear of that for now?
At the moment, no. Some people might remember that was actually kind of discussed in the last round. It gets it. I don't want to say it got a little crazy, but it involved, you know, new plans and processes, and you know, some of the things the MPOs do this, ads kind of do or don't do this. The state, you know, the HCOs don't do this, and so. At this moment, no, it could be something for the future. Like you said, it is a coming thing. Accessibility, that is, of course, utilized in what we do right now, and it's perhaps going to play a larger role in this next round.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything else you want to share? You know, there's assistant director now. You got any other cool stuff you want to share?
No, I wish, let's see, hold on here. All right, McKill's already off, so I wish I could be in Florida in my t-shirt and whatnot, flip flops. I think that's what he was probably in. That'd be kind of nice. But
McKill's still on here
oh, crap. Well,
he's muted though. I don't know what that means. He might be on the beach.
Nah, it's good. We you know, new position, but hopefully you know, doing some other things as well. And of course, we're always here to help in any way that we can. So just feel free to holler. I'll go ahead and give it the plug. Of course, we're having the HCO meeting after lunch. Probably get into a little more detail with some internal things from the district office perspective. So hopefully all our districts are going to be there. Would love to see them all in person. Thank you to the few districts that are here in people. Yeah, we got 5, 9, 2. It's coming back. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it raises a good point. I mean, we might try to get everybody in here at least once a year. And we used to do these all in person, and then COVID hit and we started going all virtual for a while. But there is something that, I appreciate everybody being online, obviously. It's great information to share, and I'm glad you guys were able to participate and get it. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's one thing at the director level we can talk about is, we might try to get everybody in house, at least once a year just to say hi and chat and that kind of stuff. So it's a little extra effort. And hopefully the COVID thing kind of goes down eventually and we don't have to be kind of paranoid about the COVID thing. But yeah, thanks everybody for your time today. Let me go over a few personnel updates. Thanks, Jason, as always. Okay, next SCP meetings, October 19th this year, and then January 18th the next year. Excuse me, the MPOs will have a breakout session with Thomas Witt, 1 to 3. And I think that's it's down the hall here to the right. There should be some, there'll be a virtual meeting, but for the guys that are in person, there should be some monitors out there in the hall that'll tell you which room. And then the HDOs, like Jason said, will be 133. Yeah, 120. Yeah. 120, C122. C107, I think, is Thomas's room, but it'll be on the monitors out there. Okay, personnel updates. Jason Swallow was named the Executive Director, Office of Project Development. So that's kind of where John was. And John Moore is the Executive Director, Office of Project Delivery and Preservation now. And Jason Blackburn, Assistant Director. Steve DeWitt, new branch manager. So Steve Ross's old job. And Scott Thompson is retiring 7/31. Scott, yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything or goodbye or sayonara or anything, but thanks for all your great help with the transportation cabinet. I mean, we're going to miss you, when you retire. And I wish you all the best. Best of luck. I think Scott said he's going to do some traveling and that kind of thing is his strategy.
Some people will probably say they'll miss me like a heart attack or a toothache.
Yeah, wish you all the best. Hopefully, congratulations that you're, not yet, but in a couple weeks. Yeah, you're round of applause for Scott. Then Jared Jeffers is on strategic planning branch. I think, are you on full time, Jared, now, or are you scholarship? You're on full time, right? Oh, good. Yeah, congratulations on being here. So we're glad to have him. And then the district offices, Brad Bottoms was named the D4 Chief District Engineer, so it's official. And Kevin Blaine, Branch Manager Project Development over there in D4, and Keenan Jones, D11 Planning Supervisor. FHWA, Bernadette Simmon, Christy Bush, Program Coordinator starting August 1st. Whose job was that? Leslie, okay. Gotcha, okay. So she's starting August 1st, then Christy Bush. And then the ads MPOs, we got a little turnover in the ads. Austin Sims is the new Brad planner. Alex Sargent is the new Bluegrass ad planner. Aaron Rose, Cumberland Valley ad planner. Jessica Blankenship, she talked at the last meeting, one of these STP meetings, and she's kind of a big music fan. So she took an opportunity in tourism over there in Rockcastle County. So I thought that's a pretty good fit for Jessica, and we wish her all the best in that role. But Aaron Rose filling those shoes, and then Jake Zimmer is the new LTAD planner. So with that being said, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for your time and attendance, Cyberland and here in person, especially. It's good to see you guys hanging out. We probably got 35 or 40, so maybe 30 here in person. So I'm going to try to go hang out with some lunch, maybe hang out with some people afterwards and chit chat a little bit. I think that's all I got. I usually have something I say to say. Yeah, sincere thank you to all the speakers. I've got this thing recorded, so I'll try to get that on the website as soon as I get that uploaded. And then I'll stay on here for a few more minutes, guys. If you got any questions for me, put them in the chat box. I see a few on here. Let me see what this. I miss you, Scott. Same here. Have some fun. We hope to see you. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good rest of the day. And feel free to stick around and chat with me if I ever get this equipment put away. And sorry for the tech difficulties early on getting the podium speaker hooked up to the internet. See you guys. Have a good one.
Probably should just logged on. I'm having, Nick and I are tag teaming today. He's coming for the afternoon session. Oh, really?
See you.
So we gotta stay far, yeah, I mean, you know, but yeah.
Something wrong, I think there's a couple of bands.
Haven't been started in like 12 years.